uh, just final thoughts from everybody on summarizing and leaving behind with people to think about as they go back.
Great conversation and lot to be done.
I would say HR needs to stay relevant, align with the organization goals, build in new competencies. But when we keep talking about version 3, version 4, don't forget version 1, version 2. Just to bring in the point, when the downturn happens, the most number of people who made money were the lawyers, whereas the HR guy did not know how to let go people. That's the problem, is because we forgot the fundamentals. And it is very important. We can talk about HRD, OB and all that, but don't forget the fundamentals of what is the minimum age required to employ people. Many times HR guys, just founder, start talking about 14 years, 16 years and all that, 18 years and 21 years, whether we're talking about marriage age or employable age, we don't know. And I'm being very candid over here. So guys, don't forget the fundas. I'm not advising anybody here. I have a son who's 20 years old and I learned from him because he's Gen Y, because every time I start advising, he starts sneezing. And when I ask him, he says, Dad, I'm allergic to bullshit and advices, so please don't advise. So I'm not advising anybody here, but it's a lesson for me. I don't want to forget my fundamentals. If I'm an IR guy, we have to understand labor laws, learn how to deal with it. Otherwise, we'll become irrelevant. Because we are talking about changing times, difficult times, it's important that HR updates one's relevance to the organization. I think that is what is going to be very, very important.
I think I'm sorry, sir. I differ from you in my views a little bit. Apologies for that. I think that we should not even talk about our old fundas. I come from a different school of thought that we are moving forward. If you want to move forward, you need to think different. You need to think completely in a new thinking scenario. I do agree there are some fundas we need to sometimes refresh our memory, but that's okay. But that's probably 10% of our time that we spend. We need to think different. Remove all your policies that are 5-year-old, 10-year-old, 15-year-old and start thinking new. How you can improve and stay in the business. I think that's the whole point which I come from. My apologies, I'm slightly different from your...
No, we don't have to apologize. I think all of us need to agree to disagree in a very agreeable way. That's what we need to do. So you don't have to
Disagree without being disagreeable.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So.
I think to me, again from the infrastructure and project background, engagement is the key for the future. You talk about engagement, there are 3 types of what in the current literature, 3 types of engagement. The one is building the financial capital of the employee, which we all do. The second is the social and intellectual capital. Now financial capital is where the guy says, I get what I want, so in terms of money, and therefore I'm doing it, I'm working. In the social or the intellectual capital, he talks about, the feeling is that he gets in terms of learning and in that, the association, etc., the growth, career growth, he gets what he wants. Now these things I think will happen automatically as we move along, and Gen Y will take this for granted. What is the most important as far as at least a complicated project is concerned is working on the ideological capital. In other words, what they call in the modern literature as a calling. And you really need to, the employee has to look at it as a calling, something to that effect, where he really gets motivated by the work itself. And that's why it appeals to him, the dil, it appeals to his heart, and with that connect he delivers. So some of the most iconic buildings, if you see here, whether it is the Baha'i temple, which L&T built long back, and you all have seen it as a tourist spot. It's the people who worked, I have interacted with many of them, some of them are my colleagues today. I could really understand what it means to be as a calling, It's just the pride or something which urged them, from their soul, they worked on it. Similarly, many of the other buildings. So I think this will be the key requirement or the key challenge for HR, working on the ideological capital of the employee. The other point is that what's important for us in projects, we have this the project life cycle or the team building, where you talk about the forming, the storming, the norming, and the performing. This is the typical life cycle. Now what happens is the HR processes need to be aligned to that. Now what mostly I have noticed that some of the HR processes become dysfunctional to that. whether it is your, the bell curving or the appraisal system, or even your some of the promotion policies or even the compensation policies. You at least it need not disturb it, but it's actually it counters, or it becomes it creates dysfunctionalities in this team building process. And add to that, as Indranil mentioned about this VUCA environment. In the VUCA environment, for reasons unknown or unconnected within the team dynamics, you can fall back from from a norming stage back to the storming stage, and the project can go into a mess. So how you sustain this, the forming of the team, then the usual storming which happens, and then the norms are created, and then they start performing in a way which it's a delight to watch. I watched when the Delhi airport was the final stages. I had watched for 6 months. It was a delight to watch the way the team worked, and it was delivered on time before the Commonwealth Games. And it's it's a world class airport, as you all seen. So that this is a bigger challenge for HR. Particularly in this VUCA environment and with Gen Y in the picture, how your processes align to this the life cycle in the team and minimize the storming process and enable the largest share of the performing, so that you start delivering, the flow starts happening right from the beginning stage of the project and moves on. And that requires a continuous introspection of the HR processes and how they are aligned. And while doing that, each project has its own specialities, its own variables. So again, another challenge is we have got about 200 projects we have in our vertical. You need to have a fractal organization, while at the same time addressing allowing the variabilities within a particular project.
Nisha, any final thoughts?
Yeah, sure. When I was presenting my views earlier, I had said that there is not much of difference in the HR concepts if we look at from version 1.0 to 2.0 to 3.0. Now, while we were discussing, I was just reflecting on that. I think there has been a difference. If I have to look at it in a way, in 1.0, where HR was more of a maintenance function. If we have to say 2.0 was an era where HR actually realized that we could do much more than a maintenance function, and we were trying to convince business leaders, saying that this is what HR could bring to the table. That was also an era where HR wanted to contribute much more than the maintenance function, but were bogged down by so many other processes. In version 3.0, we have technology as an enabler. We have the spirit to contribute as a business partner. And I think this is what we should focus on. We should focus on partnering with the business on people dimension and see how do we leverage the people potential to the maximum, keeping that as goal. In many of the HR forums, I have heard different expansion for HRD, where people would say it's human resource destruction, or they would say HRD is hame rula diya. I don't know how many people understand Hindi. Hame rula diya would mean that they made us cry. So I think if we are able to really actually partner with the business, present the people dimension, see how we are building the capabilities, we would be actually the human resource development. That is
nice, very nice. So to sum it from my side, I think phrases and words like where we started off with respect for people, human touch, gut, intuition, feel, really leaves me in a much better place than when I first heard the topic. Because I thought that at the end of our discussion, we will be left with statisticians, mathematicians, and analytics people, and the human would have gone out of the whole discussion. And it's great to hear that that is really where we need to be. I'll be now throwing the floor open for questions. If we can have the hall lights up, please. And there will be people, if you could put your hands up, there are people with mics who will come. Please introduce yourself and your name, which organization you are from, which is the speaker you want to make the question to, and what is your question. And just one question per person so that we can have more people around. Thank you.
Hello.
If you could just stand up wherever you are. Yeah, thank you.
No, there, he has the mic.
Hello. I'm Mahesh and I'm from TVS Infotech. We all are talking that matrix should not be given much importance. But when it comes down to performance appraisal, all HR managers also talks to their team members on terms of matrix. So is this not a difference in what we predict and what we do? It can be addressed to, it's open to any members here.
Can I answer that?
Yeah, sure.
I think in performance appraisal, we do say metrics is important. There is one more element we add to performance appraisal, where we say that business unit head takes a final call. While all metrics, everything is there, he uses his judgment, which would actually recognize even the effort. There could be projects which in a very difficult situation people have performed, but they may not have given the results, and that needs to be recognized. I think there's a human element in appraisal as well. Many a times during implementation, it doesn't get implemented effectively. The problem is in implementation, not in the concept.
It's like when the managers do it with their own team members. I'm saying the HR managers doing it for HR team members, then there's a difference.
Sorry?
Within the HR team, I think he's saying, right?
Yeah, within the HR team.
No, we use a combination of metrics and also the situation, the contextual factors.
If I may just add to it, right? The performance management system is at the end, you're inspecting. The process starts with goal setting, whether it is for within the HR team or across for the employees. You need to be, those are the seeds that are sown. What kind of goals are we setting? Are they relevant? Are they smartly measurable? Specific, measurable, blah, 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 all that thing. Now, all of you guys know the SMART acronym. That's what we need to look at, and if that is done properly, then measuring is not a problem. Often we blame at the end game the performance management system, theek nahi hai, people are subjective, my manager has changed, all of that. When the goals are set properly and you can measure it properly, then I think most of it is taken care of, and of course, not to lose the emotional element of it.
I think most of the time it is the implementation that causes the problem that you're saying. It is the implementation of a system. So if it is really done well, I don't see the problem there.
Hi, I am Jyoti Prakash. I represent a company called Heidelberg. One topic which I felt which we didn't touch upon in the HR 3.0 is like the social maturity of the young generation to handle failures, like especially when the family life is a best performing employee, but the family life is going for a task, or the kind of diverses that is being applied for, number of lot of failures happening in social aspects which is still affecting employees. I've not seen any companies or people talking about what is a formal mechanism that you have to recognize and address, which is very important aspect in the long run to take care of or ensure business, because he's a fantastic CAE resource, high-end resource, but it's a patched life, and obviously he's not going to perform.
That's both social and health. So
yeah. See, I think the whole, I think it's a great question, but I think since the question did not come up, we didn't answer, but that's a question which is staring on every organization, starting from your engineering colleges to LKG schools. You see the parents saying, my son did not get 99%. So start from the parents. You have to start first correcting the parents before you get moving in. And the second aspect is, a lot of organizations, irrespective of whether they are manufacturing or IT or services, do quite a lot to de-stress. If you look at today, the ICICI is completely, my good colleague Ramkumar there in ICICI and Chandra Kochar has spoken about ICICI is repositioning its targets and goals to all employees, saying having to work on a Saturday will be questioned. So you can see, so no more it is about work-life balance, it's now becoming life-work balance. So life becomes first and work becomes later. So to answer your question, every organization is doing things that is required. For example, TCS, we have something called Fit for Life. Everybody has to clock and mile certain kilometers to keep themselves fit. If you have a tummy, you are being called and politely told you are not looking smart, but that is not the concept. By making yourself fit, you contribute back to the society, because the number of kilometers you walk, number of miles you jog, we convert it into rupees and donate it to society. Because that's how the younger generation wants to look at, am I contributing something to my environment, the organization and the immediate society? Organizations have employment assistance program, we have counselors, and the managers whom we are managing to manage the Gen Y, they're all being trained to look at what are the things that you have to look at. And again, I don't want to leave this room with a negative information about Gen Y. They're all much more smarter, more intelligent, they know how to manage. Yes, there is competition, and they know the price of success is also the competition, and they are coping up well. Yes, there are challenges, but I think they are becoming much more smarter and wiser to manage it. and organizations have various mechanisms to help them cope up with these challenges. And there's a transition period which everybody has to go through. You was mentioning about the salary parity differences between the previous generation. My dad worked in one public sector office. After 5 p.m. I never worried whether the government is going to be there tomorrow or my organization is going to be there tomorrow. All of us are getting highly paid because the worry we have beyond 5 p.m. to next day 8 a.m. to worry about what's going to happen to the market. That's a differential salary you get for the worry. So you ask for it, you get it. So I think organizations are getting prepared to train them for this, and our generation will manage it. It should not be a problem.
I think this is the question is actually very apt. This is a problem that the whole country is struggling with. There is no solution at this moment. Every organization is trying their best. And I'm sure none of them have really succeeded on this particular subject, because it is not only the organization, it's also the individual. You know, you're in a rat race, you're running fast, you don't want to stop. That's the point. It's not the question of 5-day working. See, for example, our organization is predominantly focused on 5-day working, but the problem still exists there. It's not for Gen Y, it is for all the generations, baby boomer, Generation X. You see divorce rates, it's happening everywhere. You see family problems, it's in every generation. The issue is not with Gen Y, the issue is with the system. So we need to first, probably the whole country need to sit through and how we can revisit our education system and how we can really move forward in life in terms of, there's a large thinking required. It's not just few companies having few policies here and that's not going to solve the problem.
Sure. There's a question there, right?
Let me ask.
Sure.
My name is Dr. Abdul Ghanir from Mohammed Sadak Group of Institutions, particularly from AJ College of Engineering. We are concerned about the employability. HR people or the linkages between the industry and the educational institutions. There is a selection process. Many companies visit institutions. But many of our students who are good in academics do not find a place in the placement. And they are meritorious students. And secondly, many of them, they are good in, they find a placement, they are unable to perform well in the industries. Perhaps, I doubt, is there a blueprint given out by the HR department? This is what we require, knowledge-wise, skills, and attitude. In the absence of this, whatever efforts we do in the academic institutions will go on reducing the employability. I want an answer from you.
Me? Okay, I can take it. Sure. Yeah, I think you answered the question very well in a suggested framework. Knowledge, skills, and attitude are abilities, like what you said. You know, often when you speak of meritorious student or meritorious candidate, you're only indexing it on knowledge. You know, it's based on the theoretical concepts or knowledge that the individual student has, garnered over a period of time. Then the skills, partly, which is what companies today look at, is the individual ready to hit the ground running? How billable, how productive can the individual be? Those skills is taken care. The biggest part is the attitude or the abilities, the interpersonal skills, how the 21st generation skills as UN defines it, right? Collaborative skills are the other elements of the human elements that makes an individual a fantastic team player. That is what is more important along with the skills. More companies, if you really look at the IT vertical or what have you, they run their own 6 to 9 months, and probably Ganeshan can comment it more intelligently because it belongs to his domain, in terms of the induction programs or the readiness programs, because they don't find those skills readily available, so they are grooming them once again, and that is the stopgap arrangement that they need to do. If the skills come out of these universities or the educational institutes, so that they don't have to do this additional 6-9 months of readiness program, that is money saved and frustration saved. And the abilities, attitude or abilities, that's much more important in my opinion. That is where you find, hey, somebody is a meritorious candidate, but he couldn't fare well in an interview. But there is always a place for these people. There is different strokes for different folks. People who are very good and they are not great at communicating, they could be individual contributors. They could be, generating reams of code, and they are very good. So it is always important to match the K, S, and A of the individuals to the type of roles, rather than saying this person doesn't fit, right? So it takes, it's almost like mapping the interests.
Ganeshan, I remember you speaking to me the other day about your academic interface program, does that address some of it?
Yeah, sure. See, I had the global academic interface programs. We have done accreditation. There are around some 3,000 universities in India, and we have accredited 561, and we go for recruitment to 372 colleges. The issue is, sir, what you raise is very important. Since I am with a lot of press, I'm very careful with whatever I'm saying. I think, first of all, we need to start teaching the faculty quite a lot. I have a lot of respect for them. It's very important. Students are all amazing. They all learn quite a lot. In fact, today when I meet many of the professors, they tell me, Ganesh, before I go and take one session on computer science, I had to do 4 hours of preparation because these guys talk about open source, MOOC, and read all the topics and come and ask me questions. So the issue is, organizations are working very closely with the colleges, whether undergraduate colleges or engineering colleges, to work closely on doing multiple things, to bridge the gap between what academia teaches to what the industry really wants. That's number one. And second thing, sir, you speak about marks. With due respect, marks are only one indication. I think it's very important because when we go for campuses, we look for consistency of first class or 75% because the key result area of a student is only to study. If he or she doesn't do that when they are supposed to do that, then maybe something is wrong. So we just expect them to do this. But possession of knowledge and application of knowledge are two very different things. Especially in some states where you have, for 100, people are getting 102, 105. They write in the science book, it is written Pythagoras theorem and figure 12. They write the Pythagoras theorem and write figure 12 also. So that's the sort of orientation we get there. But when we ask them to interpret some of those theories into practice and asking them to explain, that's where the problem comes. So it's a gap that is being felt. And I think organizations like TCS, including Wipro, the CTS, the Infosys, and all other IT companies, including many of the panel people who are sitting here, constantly go and address the students, constantly go and do the faculty development program. We learn from the faculty. Some of the faculty is phenomenal. We constantly learn from them. So this constant academic interface program, in whichever field it is, whether it's engineering or IT, is what is going to make people very, very important. Because I just want to make this point. In India, employment is not a problem. Being employable at all times is a challenge.
Absolutely.
So the role of HR people is to make their employees being competitive to their competitors. That's when people will stay with you. So to answer your question, sir, I think while theoretical training helps, it is very important to make sure that possession of knowledge and application of knowledge are able to translate.
Why IIT engineers are unable to attract by HR people?
No, I think what Mr. Ganeshan said is very relevant. I'll just simply finish in one liner. If you see in India, the number of jobs, supply and demand, there is no problem. There's a huge supply and there's a huge demand of jobs. The problem is in the middle. Are they really ready to be employed? So who plays a major role? It's the institution which is supposed to play a major role in delivering the curriculum in terms in a very qualitative manner. Of course, the industry is just an enabler. We can't be coming on a daily basis and spend time with the institutions because at the end of the day we are in business. We can enable the process of learning, but then it is in the hands of the institution because that's their core competency. So I think it's and of course government, I'm not coming back to that point of government and education system and pattern, that's a bigger debate. But I think institution has to play a major role. For example, as you said, IIT, Anna University, and there are many other good institutions which are even private, very good institutions which are able to do, why not others? I think that's a question that the self-introspection is required on the subject.
We'll take 2 more questions. We'll start here and 1 more. We don't have time for much more.
So permit me to compliment the panel on an excellent tour de horizon of the HR function. But I have a question. Dr. Shanta of the Cancer Institute spoke to me about 6 months ago. She said that we have excellent oncologists but very poor doctors. And she was referring to the fact that we have professionals who are knowledgeable in technology or whatever they're doing, but they have very poor human skills. Now, if we are talking of HR 3.0 and the challenges of the future, and we are talking about human capital, and we are talking of the human touch, etc., what do you think is the role of HR in soft skill development, not only at the entry level, but throughout, even as they grow into higher positions of accountability and responsibility, where the human touch is more important. But I have the views of the panel, please.
I think soft skill is an overused word where a lot of people have made money during this process. I think if people follow the Indian culture, I think soft skill is there. And I can talk because I spent 7 years in the US and 6 years in the Europe. Respect for individual. We don't need to learn it from the Westerners. It's there as part of a culture. Respect for individual, it's part of a culture. Ability to listen is part of a culture. Ability to question, which we have forgotten over a period of time. The Upanishads always spoke about asking questions. Upanishads is to sit before in front of a teacher and ask questions. So these are some of the traits that we have forgotten about Indian as some Swami Dayananda Saraswati said IT is not information technology, is Indian tradition. So to go back to your question, sir, it is not about executive etiquettes, it's not about how you hold your wine glass, it's not about opening the door, it's not about opening the lift elevator for a woman. I think these are all traits that all of us in India have been taught how to avoid it. As you spoke about, I understand when you say soft touch is not to lose the people element in us. And I strongly feel it comes from the organizational culture. It comes from a boss. After all, it's the boss who defines the culture. So I think it is important, as somebody said, Yata Raja, Tata Praja. As your leader, so you are. You work in an environment where you find, because I worked in a factory, you get the workman out because the foreman will come and say, Ganesh, this guy is arrogant, he argues. You get him out of the environment of the factory and put him in a training center for 2 days. The guy behaves very well. Perfect, no problem. But then you put him back, the problem is somewhere. It's the foreman who's rude. So the fact of the matter, sir, is it is important to talk about soft skills, but yes, as I fundamentally said, whichever version of HR it is, don't forget the people element in this. People need respect. People need to be respected for what they are, and people have to behave as professional. And a professional is one who can self-certify their own work. That's all it is. So that's what, in my opinion, all the soft skills is all about.
I think soft skill programs, in my opinion, is more of expensive, low-value programs. You know, you can't change a guy in 2 days of training program or 1 day of just a workshop. You can't. It is impossible. But what is important is the organization as a whole culture, which is not 1 day job. It's a journey. You know, it takes years to build a culture. So I think it's important that all the managers, all the leaders, all the team leaders, or every molecule in the system adds value to the culture that the organization is trying to build it within the system. This is very important. But unfortunately, you're right that it is not happening in many of the systems because we are in a fast-moving world. What happens? You want to retain a guy, even if he's very arrogant, very stupid, you give him 30% or 40% more increase because he's a niche guy, and such kind of a story does happen in a system which can actually breed problems into the organization culture, which over a period of time it will stabilize. It's not going to be 30 years we're not going to have this problem. It's a matter of time.
Okay, one last question. I think that's the gentleman with the mic, so we'll go with you.
Okay, my name is Rajan. I'm from the company called Image, but I also come from the industry called media and entertainment. Okay, my question is, I don't know why I don't know to whom to pose this question, basically to the panel or the organizers, because my question is, I can see a lot of industry people from IT or construction or from XYZ, but I don't see people come from the media and entertainment industry, because that is one of the...
Can I take that question on behalf of the organizers? I think what HT and Shine.com and Hindu does is that we look at a city. Obviously, we can only have 4 or 5 people on the panel, right? And there are more industries. Let me finish.
Let me finish my question. See, so I keep participating all this event, okay? Whether it is part of my industry which I belong to or not, but still, the most of the event, I don't see the industry, because the media and entertainment industry is equally challenging industry today.
So that's what I got your question. So it depends on which city they are going to. This conclave this is the 11th. This is held in many places. We look at a city and look at what are the primary industries in the city. If you had come to the Bombay conclave, you would see that there are a lot of people from media that come in for those things. We have had people from Viacom 18, we have had people from Star, all coming and talking in these forums. So it's not that media is not represented. It's just the city that you've gone to and a set of people that you've chosen. It's not a bias in any which way.
Sorry, with your permission, was this the question or you have a question?
It's a question.
Okay,
So great. So thank you, everybody. I'm sorry, some of the panelists will be around for dinner, so you could step out and talk to them. I will have to call this a close. So thank you, everybody, and thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Andrei.
Okay, we'll have to sit for a little while longer.
Oh, this is like,
Yeah, a little while.
this is like the
Thank you, Indranil and the panelists. That was a wonderful discussion we had, and I'm sure our audience would have taken back lots of critical learnings. We are slowly getting towards the close of the Hindu Shine HR Conclave. Allow me to invite Pratik Mehta, Managing Director, Unishare Group, to deliver the closing note. An engineer by education, Pratik stepped into the business in 2007. Pratik's strengths include design, feasibility, and marketing. He has been spearheading the rebranding of the organization and its growth in the last 5 years. Pratik has been responsible for acquisition of a pipeline of over 10 million square feet for Unishare. He is closely involved in the day-to-day operations as well as strategic directions. Pratik.
Hello friends, a very good evening to all of you on behalf of Unishare Group of Companies. I won't take much of your time. My name is Pratik Mehta. I'm the Managing Director of Unishare Group. Just to begin, before I introduce Unishare, in fact it's a great experience, my first conclave, HR conclave, and with such an illustrious panel, definitely, the learnings, at least for a young organization like mine, to understand. Few of the points that I would like to highlight, maybe, when Mr. Indranil spoke about Gen Y and ROI in HR, how it could be relevant to human response development, to technology and human touch together with what Ms. Richa mentioned, as well as HR and project management and engagement practices, as Mr. Dharmarajan mentioned, which is very relevant to my business as well. Also, how to create a culture of innovation, which Mr. Arokya mentioned, and the ABCD of HR, as mentioned rightly by Mr. Murthy. A little bit about Unishare. Our beginning was humble, but our vision wasn't. Our journey began in 1987 under the guidance of my father, Mr. Kirti Mehta, who has always believed in redefining real estate and creating benchmarks for others to follow. Our objective is to place commitment, perseverance, and loyalty at the forefront, to ensure projects are completed expeditiously and to their full potential, to maintain and develop strong relationships as the foundation for every business interaction, to always be committed to the success of our country and actively give back to our community. The core of our brand being building relationships. Urban India is growing faster than ever before. We don't just need more space, we need better spaces to live in, to work at, and to enjoy life. We want wider roads, longer bridges, and faster highways that connects these spaces. We need power to sustain our lives, power that we know is not in short supply. But fortunately, ideas are not. So we need education that thinks ahead and nurtures innovation. In a short span, Unishare has been able to translate its 360-degree perspective of development into various successful verticals, headquartered in Bangalore. Our robust model leverages joint ventures to pull in the expertise of industry leaders, giving us a definitive edge. Riding a sharp learning curve through such collaborations, today we have completed several independent projects with developed areas of approximately 1 million square feet. The uniqueness of Unishare comes from the involvement of all the team members of the organization, be it the planning of the project or its execution. We have complete faith in each and every member of our team. It is nothing but this trust that has led us to creation of clarity in our entire operations, from the initial step of a sale to the possession of the building. We emphasize on creating and maintaining a family-like atmosphere, and we all share the same core values. A reporting structure is of utmost importance to any organization. However, building strong relationships and sharing the same value system makes one feel like the owner of a company. Today, I'm glad to see that to a large extent, we have succeeded in creating the same in the heart of each and every person working for our organization. We always try to offer bigger and better exposure for our team members by involving them in decision-making meetings. For example, team interactions are of utmost importance. To give an example, our technical team members get an opportunity to interact with our international architects and his team. This makes them true leaders for tomorrow and exposes them to a larger platform of the industry and also enhances their professional experience. We also provide ample benefits and facilities of insurance, planning their retirement funds, conducting checkups for them and their families, celebrating those special days, and assisting them through emergencies. We ensure that every individual in the organization is happy and to provide ample opportunities for them to grow. Lastly, as we have chosen our brand color as blue, which is associated with trust, loyalty, communication, wisdom, reliability, security, depth, and confidence, it can be strong and committed or light and friendly. And that is the sense you will get when you meet any of us at Unishire. The solemnity of the symbol is regarded as a significant part of reflecting the concept and culture of our enterprise. And our tagline, which states, spreading acres of joy, we too wish to translate the same throughout the organization. I would like to conclude my speech with a quote by the famous French poet and journalist, Anatole France. To accomplish great things, we must not only act, but also dream. Not only plan, but also believe. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Pratik. I now request Avinash Bichali, General Manager South of Shine.com, to felicitate the panelists, moderators, and our speakers. Avinash. I request Commodore S. Shekhar and Pratik Mehta to join us on stage and accept a small token of our appreciation. We would like to thank our sponsors for supporting the Hindu Shine HR Conclave. Our presenting partner, Hindustan University, talent resource partner, Randstad, technology partner, Ramco Systems, skill assessment partner, Metal, real estate partner, Unishire, hospitality partner, ITC Grand Chola, airlines partner, Air Costa. Our event partners, Muhammad Sathak Trust, PVR VITS, Sri Shakti Institute of Engineering and Technology, Chadalavada R Engineering College, Grandhi Varalakshmi Venkatarao Institute of Technology, our media partners, The Telegraph and Mint. Now I would invite all of you to join us for cocktails at dinner. Thank you.